Greetings, everyone. My name is Sal Munoz, and I am here with All Chicago. I am All Chicago System Implementation Manager, and what we are gathered here to do today is to talk through hot topics for data quality, specifically child-only entries. So this is part of a series where we are addressing common issues in regards to what we have for data quality. So as you can see, we have a series on the bed and room utilization, fixing missing data, SSN, date of birth, etc. We have one on sub-assessments and then child-only entries. So just a little bit of background. Child-only entries mean that they are dependents that are under 18 who are enrolled into a project without an adult, or that person's date of birth may be missing. So we understand that there may be some projects that actually should be serving unaccompanied youth under 18, and we certainly don't want to wrongly measure your data quality. So if you do, in fact, have a legitimate youth who is under 18 who you have served, we ask that you send us this form. So this form will link you over to our child-only entry non-compliance explanation. And so what this is really asking is, which project should we be expecting these children to be in? So you would fill this out upon every data quality session where you want to give us a heads up that, hey, I have served a youth that's under the age of 18. Please give me an exemption. This one is legitimate, etc. Going back to our presentation. So we have several reports regarding the data quality process. We have an article on how to run and interpret the data quality report, another one on how the data quality assessment instructions what the assessment instructions are for data quality. And one thing I want to mention before we get into child-only entries is in regards to timeliness. So you may have noticed that in the series that we have not touched on timeliness whatsoever. Well, the reason being is because timeliness cannot be fixed. It's recorded in the system. It literally has to do with when you put in data into HMIS. So what timeliness is measuring is, when you officially started services with a client versus when you put that client's information into HMIS. And so the time frame for that is 2 days. So let's take last month. If a client came in on January 15th to begin to receive services, they should have been in service point at least by the 17th. So there's a 2-day time frame. And the reason we have that is because with coordinated entry, our system really relies on knowing where clients are at all times. The purpose of that being so that if the client actually gets matched to housing, we can locate them and assist them in getting that permanent housing. If a client is officially housed by a permanent housing project, we can then sort of, that's a victory for our continuum, and we can show that our numbers are decreasing. This client no longer needs this permanent housing resource, etc. So it's really critical that you get your information in there within 2 days, because any more than that, people tend to forget. People tend to let, by the end of this week, I will exit all the clients I need to exit, or I'll enter all the clients I need to enter. And if that person misses that deadline, then it may turn into 14 days, may turn into 30 days, etc. So it's really critical. This is why we're measuring timeliness so often, and it's super essential to ensuring that we can coordinate all of our resources to help the clients and to get them matched to the services that best suit their needs. So let's talk a little bit about child-only entries. How do they happen? How can we identify them? And how do we fix them? Well, On the DQ report, it's easy to identify because they list them out for you. We list them out. So what this webinar will be mostly concentrated on is helping you fix those those child-only entries. So what is a child-only entry? It's when children have erroneously been enrolled into projects without their appropriate guardian grouped with them. And this hides these data entry errors hinder providers' abilities to count the number of families and singles enrolled in a project. So what happens is that when you check a client in, maybe you have the head of household's name checked off, but not the rest of the children. So when you realize the mistake you made, you may want to fix it by enrolling the children separately, not knowing that you can connect them on the same enrollment. And what that does is that the system reads that as this is a child. This is only one person being enrolled into this project. They don't recognize that, if it's someone with the last name of Smith, the system doesn't know, oh, well, there's already 2 Smiths enrolled in this project. They're probably a family. It doesn't work like that. You have to be explicit with the system to let us know who is a family unit, even though it may make sense that, there's no way a 3-year-old would be the head of household or be their own household unit. It's because the system's only looking at what you tell it. And so there are 3 scenarios where an erroneous child-only entry can be created. That's individual entries for each client's record. So that means that instead of enrolling someone as a family, you're enrolling them each one by one. The other is that the child was not exited with the head of household. This is a really classic one where folks just simply forget to check off the client's the full client's name, the rest of the household members' names. So they only exit the head of household and don't touch the children. And then we have no date of birth entered. This one is super easy, in particular those organizations that may be working with only singles. This is going to be your biggest problem, where there may be a data entry error and someone just forgets to put in the date of birth. When that happens, super easy fix to make. So just a little bit of rules in terms of how child-only entries operate. Clients under the age of 18, they have to be entered with an adult unless it's specific to your program. So some of those programs that may serve runaway youth, or that those agencies that have a grant with for the population of runaway homeless youth, then it's reasonable for you to have a child in there. Or if you're a youth drop-in center, you may be seeing people under 18. Another thing is that the date of birth is missing. This is the first thing you'll want to check for any clients. The household is partially exited, and then what we'll go through is entering a household with an adult so that they're all put together. And then another pretty common scenario that we see is that if a child was born into a household at a later date, that the child is not that the child is sort of separated. It's hard to enroll a client into a household when they haven't been around, or when they weren't originally there for the initial date of entry. And so the data quality report is going to be your biggest source where you can identify child-only entries. Again, there is a tab on the data quality report that spells it out for you. They list the entire client information so that you can begin to work to see and to eventually solve this. And another quick thing to do is that you can review the client records in Service Point. So what you would want to do is take a look at this client count. So if you're familiar with Service Point, there's an entry exit tab, and this entry exit tab has more information than just the summary page, and it shows you how many clients are associated with a specific entry. And so in this case, you can see that there are 3 clients associated with this entry. That means that you can presume that this is a family of 3 that are going to be enrolled. One of the things that you would want to look out for is if you are serving a family, then if you only see one, if you don't see anything, that means that the client has likely been checked in just by themselves. And we're going to walk through what that looks like. And then again, the easiest scenario out of all of these is to fix the missing date of birth if the record belongs to an adult. So let's go ahead and try to fix some of these scenarios. I have set up 3 different scenarios for us to address. And the one that we're going to start with is actually the missing date of birth. All right, so I have my training site set up right here. And again, what we're going to do, we're going to pretend that we are an organization that has an emergency shelter that only serves single adults, not even youth, but adults. And I'm going to show you a pretty typical scenario where someone who was doing data entry might have just skipped it over, or for whatever reason, they didn't get to the date of birth. So I will have to go to my client, and my client's name is Missing Age. So I go to my client's record, and notice that there's no date of birth right here. So this client would be coming up as a child-only entry because the system, when it doesn't see that there's a date of birth, it's confused. It thinks that the client is the age of 0, is the age of null, which it can't process. So it comes up as an error. So we will go to entry exit. And notice here that my client count only says 1. And that's fine because, again, in this scenario, we are a singles emergency shelter for single adults. So I'm going to open up our entry. And there are no household members associated with this, which is completely fine because this is a singles program. So we'll click on Save and Continue. And this is your culprit right here. So this would be a very easy fix. All we have to do is put in the date of birth, and I will say that they were born on October 1st, 1980. And then, as always, you have to indicate what the date of birth type is, whether it's a full or approximate. And I'll say full here. If a client only gives you an approximate date of birth, then you would go along with that. So we are done. That's as deep as this fix goes, in particular if you work in a singles adult program. So again, really easy to fix if it's simply the case of a missing date of birth. Now, the other scenario that I want to go through is connecting to family members. So let's see. I'm going to pull up. Have my family list here. So let's check out what the Familia family is doing. All right, so we have uno, dos, y tres familia. So I'm going to go to Uno, who is my head of household. And let's say that of this family, we have had a child-only entry, a child-only error for tres familia. So you can see here that uno is the head of household, dos is the head of household's child, and somehow tres was not associated with this entry. So I'll show you what had happened. So our person who was doing data entry, they may have entered uno y dos together. So you can see that right up here. What I did was go to the project start date, open up the assessment, the entry assessment, and here it lists the household members that are associated with this project. Now, I want to show you what it looks like on Tris's profile. Click on Submit. And so you can also see that someone tried enrolling Trace, but when you click on their entry, there's no household members associated with this project. So no one is associated with it. It's only this client out there by themselves. At least that's what the system looks at it as. So you can tell that this client is 14 years old, and this would count as a child-only entry because the system's saying, well, there's no adult associated with this person, so we can only presume that they are a child-only entry. So how do we fix this? Can we fix this through Trace's entry? Well, we can, but usually what I would do, what I would encourage everyone to do, is to find the head of household. And so here, Trace is not the head of household. That is Uno. So I'm going to go back to Uno's record. And what I'm going to do is attach Tres to Uno's record. So I'm going to click on the entry assessment. And notice there's no way to do that, but then you look here and it's pretty obvious. It's just include additional household members. We'll click on that. And now it's listing all the missing household members that were not originally associated with this. So here I would click on Tres Familia right there. Click on continue. And they're joining on 2-1. We'll click save and continue. And there we go. So now you can see right here in the household member section that uno, dos, y tres are part of a household. And before, if we were to go to Teresa's, we have successfully attached each of these clients together. And there you go. So you also want to do a quick check on this relationship to head of household. So I like to switch between them by clicking on each of their names. So I'll check dos, and dos is going to be, oh, dos should not be that. They should be a child. I'll fix that up. And that's really there because it is also going to cause you a data quality issue if you don't address that. And here, Tris is also considered a child. So we have successfully been able to connect our families together. Now I'm going to go ahead. Talked about was also what happens when you accidentally exit the head of household but forget to exit the remaining household members. So one thing that may happen, let's say Uno no longer, they're moving on from the emergency shelter, so we have to do an exit assessment for them. So typical data entry person will click on the exit assessment. And this is a critical training point where whenever you're exiting someone, you want to ensure that you're checking off the entire family if that's actually applicable, right? You may be exiting just one or two sometimes, but if you know that the entire family is leaving, you will want to check off everyone. But let's say that the person, our data entry person, forgot. It's very easy to forget because you can notice here that it only checks off the head of household. It only checks off the top one, not the rest of the family members. So let's say I go through with my exit, and I'll say that they completed the program, and they are going to rental by client, no ongoing housing subsidy. So what will happen now is that, notice down here, the household members associated with his exit are only the head of household. We're not seeing dos y tres. They're not here because they were not at your data quality. Again, what you are going to be finding is that dos y tres are going to be listed as child-only entries. So that's what we want to address. So how can we fix this? How can we rectify this? Well, the first thing that we can do is simply click the exit date and just check off the rest of the family. So it's really as simple as that. You would essentially just go to the head of household record or whoever the exit was originally associated with, and then exit them. And now you can see, after I checked off their name, now the rest of the family is showing up. So that's how you would rectify if a family member was exited but the children weren't. And one thing I forgot to mention is that if you remember, Tres had a separate entry. So if we go to Tres, you'll notice that there's one that is real, the one that we connected them to, and then there's this one where the client was entered into this project erroneously. When this happens, you don't have to keep them doubled up. Go ahead and delete the original one where you erroneously entered the client without connecting them to the family. So the information will be persisting throughout the database, so you're not deleting any data, you're just deleting erroneous data. And there we go. So we have addressed how to exit all the clients successfully and connect them together. We have addressed how to add a family member together. So let's check out what we can do for connection. And I want to show you what it would look like if you were to enroll a family. All right, sorry. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look here. So let's say that both of these clients are in here together, and for the sake of clarity, I'm going to backdate this real quick. Let's say that both of my clients' fake and double connection are linked together, that they come in as a family unit, but let's say that the head of household, fake, they have a child midway through that is not on the same date as their entry date. So let's say that another child joins the family on 1/15/2019. So in that instance, instead of having to create a separate enrollment, what we are going to do is simply create that other client's record. Connectino, it's not connection either. We have Sal connection, change this. And what we're going to do is add client and search households because we know we have to connect this to the Connectino family. And here it automatically searches for whoever has the last name. So we can see that these are my search results. So I'll add them to this household. They're going to be the head of household's child. Sorry, not partner, child. We'll go down, click save and exit. And so we have attached this client to the household. Now we have to enter them into the project. And remember, the date that we're entering this client into the project is going to be 10/15. So what you would want to do is actually go to the head of household record, include Sal Connectino. And so notice that it's going to say joined household on 2/1, and we will address that in a bit. So we're going to click on save and continue. And the project start date for Sal Connectino was 1/1/2019 when they actually joined on 1/15. So we're going to change that. And so notice here we're going to change this client's entry, and we're going to unattach these. And there we go. It's as simple as that. We have now changed our client's entry date in here, and they're still all connected together. So that is what we're trying to build towards. It's as simple as just connecting the family, coming in here, and editing that person's start date. So I hope that's been helpful for you all. Again, if you have any questions, by all means, please reach out to us. We are here. You can find us on the help desk, which is hmis.allchicago.org. If you have any questions, you can submit us a ticket. You can also shoot us an email at hmis@allchicago.org. Thanks very much.